Hi everyone, and welcome to today's VETengage webinar. Before we get too far into today's session, I just wanted to cover off a few logistics about today's webinar. Firstly, within your webinar panel, there are some controls that will help you interact during today's session. Just to make sure that you can hear me, can I please ask you to raise your hand to confirm that the audio is working correctly? Excellent, thank you. You can pop your hands down now. During today's webinar, there will be the opportunity to ask questions. Within your webinar panel, there is a questions section, so should you have any questions throughout the session, please pop them in there and we will collate all of them and place the questions and answers on our community forum after the session. Today's webinar will also be recorded. So should you need to duck out early, or if there are other members of your team that you'd like to get across the content, they'll be able to do so too. Okay, now that we've got the logistics out of the way, let's jump into today's session. Firstly, for those who don't know me, my name is Trevor Fairweather, and I recently started as the General Manager of VETtrack in January of this year. Today we've got a couple of other members of the VETtrack team that will take you through some of our content. Firstly, we've got Paul Vandenberg, who's the head of software for VETtrack. Paul is responsible for the team that builds out our core VETtrack student management system. We also have Nick Bishop, who's in our partner and client experience team. Nick's been with the business in a number of different roles in sales and support, and has recently moved into the client and partner experience manager role, really looking to foster relationships with some of our ecosystem partners. Firstly, today I'd like to take you through some of the key reasons why we run events like VETengage. Okay. So firstly for us, it is really around connecting with our clients. For us, it's really important to understand what it is like for our customers to work in RTOs. And we really encourage lots of input and lots of questioning in today's session, so we can try and get some more of a detail around what it is like for you to work in the sector. Secondly, it's also about creating a platform for knowledge exchange. So as much of it for it to be great for us to get input from you, but we also like to try and create a platform for knowledge exchange where a lot of our clients can share information with each other. So through your questions that you send through in the panel today, we will be putting those questions on our community forum, so we can start to share that information with our customers. At its heart, it is really around trying to improve your use of VETtrack. We understand that VETtrack is now a 20-year-old product, and it has grown in complexity and high levels of functionality over the last 20 years. So sometimes it can be quite difficult to try and understand the full capability of VETtrack. So through these sessions, we try to convey some of the key things that have happened in the VETtrack product over the last sort of 3 to 6 months. Part of the sessions are also around trying to share some of our recent developments in VETtrack. So today, Paul will specifically spend some time talking about some of the things that we've done in the product over the last 3 to 6 months, and also share some of our thinking around some of our plans for the product over the next 3 to 6 months as well. And lastly, the opportunity to talk about some of the ecosystem partners that we have within VETtrack, and really share with you some things that you might be able to do within VETtrack and through some of our partners to help you be more efficient in your RTO. So with that said, today's theme for our VETengage webinar is all around efficiency. So shortly, Paul will take you through some of the recent developments in VETtrack that have been put into the system that is specifically centered around trying to make you more efficient in your RTO. And he'll also share with you some of the plans that we have in the upcoming releases, again, all around the basis of trying to make you more efficient. Before we jump into Paul taking you into the product, I just wanted to share some recent research that we conducted around the middle of this year which we've called our Voice of Vet industry report. So Voice of Vet is an industry report that we commissioned through a third-party research agency. And through this research, we surveyed 444 senior managers across RTOs in Australia. And the aim was to try and understand more about the sector, the who, the what, the why, and the how of vocational education. So I just wanted to take a minute of your time to take you through some of the insights that we drew from the survey, because we felt that was quite insightful for us, and wanted to start to share some of those insights with some of our customers. One of the first insights that we saw out of the report was where we asked customers to provide us with some feedback around the performance of their RTO. So in this slide here, we can see how RTOs have performed in the last 12 months. And we can see that about 63% of RTOs have seen their revenue either increase or stay the same in the last 12 months. We also asked RTOs to give us an indication of how they felt their RTO was going to perform in the next 12 months. Here we can see that about 78% of RTOs are feeling quite a bit more bullish about the future, with almost 80% of RTOs expecting their revenues to increase or remain the same. Importantly, we wanted to try and understand a little bit more about some of the challenges that some of our customers are facing. Here we asked RTOs to talk to us about their biggest administrative or business challenge that they're likely to face. And probably no surprise to a lot of you, 36% of RTOs considered compliance to be their biggest challenge. Interestingly, 30% of RTOs also felt that maintaining staff capabilities was going to be a challenge that they would need to face as well. Here we are looking forward and looking at what is the biggest administrative or business opportunity within an RTO over the next 12 months or so. And 25% of RTOs see that entering new markets or taking new products to market as being the biggest opportunity in the next 12 months. And lastly, we wanted to try and get a bit of a sense around the training delivery methods that are offered in RTOs. And again, no surprise here, majority of RTOs, some 88% are still offering classroom training as their core method of training delivery. But interestingly, almost half of RTOs are now starting to offer online training. And that's really interesting for us and something that we will continue to monitor as we start to see the sector digitise more and look to try and deliver solutions through online mechanisms. And lastly, 61% of RTOs are delivering workplace training. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a feel as to some of the insights out of the Voice of Vet report. We're looking to run this report every 12 months. And really using this opportunity not only for us to learn more about the sector and what some of the challenges are that our customers and non-customers are facing, but to also look to try and advocate some of the positive and really great stories that's happening in vocational education. As you know, the sector's gone through a bit of a rough trot in more recent times, and we feel it's really incumbent of us having lots of customers that are operating in the sector to showcase some of the really positive things that are happening in the sector. So would really encourage you to have a look through the webinar notes. We will be sending you a link through with a copy to the full report, and we'll really just encourage you to join the discussion on our VETengage website around any of your thoughts and opinions around some of the insights of the report. So without any further ado, I will now hand over to Paul Vandenberg, who's our Head of Software, to take you through some of the recent developments in VetTrack, which have all been centred around trying to make you more efficient.
Thanks, Trevor. So we're going to be having a look at the our product overview in this section. And my name's Paul Vandenberg, and as Trevor said, I'm the Head of Desktop Software Development at VetTrack. So today we're going to be looking at some of the most recent things that we've done in the software, as well as some future plans, all in the theme of efficiency. So we're going to look at some of the things that we've added in to help make your processes within your RTO and your use of VETrack more efficient. VETrack's had a reputation for the last 20 years of being a very highly rigorous, highly compliant student management system. So what we're trying to do is increase some of the processes that you use with their efficiency, yet maintaining that rigor for compliance. So without further ado, we'll have a look at some of the things that we've been doing. So the first thing that we're going to have a look at is the unit results updater. Now this is one of two new importers for VETrack. They're brand new, out of the box in 18.3. So the unit results updater replaces the old unit results importer. We had to change the name slightly. So the old unit results importer, if anyone's ever used it, wasn't a very flexible tool, didn't allow you to import many things apart from a unit result and the start and end date, and didn't have a lot of built-in validation into it. So basically whatever you'd put into the spreadsheet you're importing, it would accept it. So we've built a brand new unit results updater based on a new base for all our importers that is coming up. And we've added in a lot of validation to make sure that when you're importing a spreadsheet in bulk for unit results, that you can do so safely and reliably. So a couple of things about the unit result updater. You can create custom layouts for imports from multiple sources. Now, this might be, for example, that you provide your trainers with spreadsheets for them to complete for their unit results. That might be your processes. So you give the trainer a spreadsheet in a certain layout because that's how they like to work, and trainer B might have a slightly different layout. They want to add notes, for example, or various other things. So you can have different layouts for different people or different sources or different things that you're trying to import. Another example is you might have a qualification on scope that you're not doing the delivery for, that you're auspicing to a third party, and you don't want to give them access to your VETrack, so you might provide them with a spreadsheet in a format that you've both agreed to, for them to complete and for you to then import using this tool. So in that way, you can have specific formats for the spreadsheets for different training organizations as well who are delivering training on your behalf. So custom layout files for imports from multiple sources. The old unit results importer could not do that. It was very fixed in what it could do. The new importer, the new updater, unit results updater, allows you to import many more fields than previously possible. So nearly anything that's related to a unit result can be imported. So that can be things like notes. It can be things like training plan start dates and training plan end dates. It could be assessment modes. It could be delivery modes. Lots of things that are related to a unit result for students that previously weren't able to be imported. So now you can import training plan information that you previously never could. So lots more flexibility in the tool, allowing you to import many more fields. As I mentioned before, it has a lot more validation. So the new tool allows you to import unit results safely in that all of the rules that apply when you're recording results manually through the wizard also apply when you're using the new unit results updater. So you can feel safe in that when you are using this tool that you are maintaining your compliance and the rigor around recording unit results in bulk. And as I said, you can import third-party assessments from spreadsheets. So that's the base of what this tool's for, to be able to take a whole spreadsheet of unit results or training plan information and import that into VETrack. So let's have a look, see what it looks like. So here, for example, I've got a layout that I've created. Now, if you're familiar with data insights or triggers and actions, this should look relatively familiar. And all our importers and new importers that we're building are based upon this same form. So on the left side there, you can see the available fields that you drag and drop onto the right-hand side, and then you can perform certain actions for those entities. So, for example, in this example, I'm looking to match for a client an enrolment in a qualification and an enrolment in the unit for that qualification, and I want to update the result as well as the start date and the finish date. So different entities have different operations available. So, for example, the client code, for example, it doesn't have an update action. That's because updating client codes isn't a great thing to do and can cause you issues down the track. So while some are match only, some might be match and update, and others will be match and update and potentially reset. So different actions or operations are available for different entities. In this one, matching 3 things, and I'm going to update 3 things. So the first step in using our new importers, like the unit results updater, is to create the layout which matches the spreadsheet that you're going to import. And you can save these and you can use them after and load them up as layouts for later use. The second step here is where I then am importing the spreadsheet that contains the unit results. And we can see in the example I've given here that there are 2 units results which are okay and they can be processed. But there's a whole heap of unit results that aren't. And even when you look at them there, you can't tell what is the issue here. So we give you nice, easy to read, quite verbose errors so that you can then fix up whatever the problem is. So in this case, it's found multiple existing VETrack records to match the import values, and it's unable to process this record, which basically means this student has 2 enrolments for the same unit, for the same qualification, and VETrack doesn't know which one to update. So instead of making your best guess, VETrack has stopped you in your tracks and said, no, we can't update those records. This is a very simple example of of validation of the unit results updater. There are lots more, lots more rules that we're enforcing, and certainly you get lots of information back about what are the potential issues doing a unit results import, because it is important to get it right. It's important that the rigor is maintained. And this is a really good example of where we're balancing the need for efficiency with the need for maintaining that rigor and compliance. So a great example of efficiency with rigor. So, and we're building upon that. The second importer that we've recently added to VETrack is a payment importer. Now, the payment importer replaces basically the payment status importer. Now, that's still available for those who use it, but the previous payment status importer could only update the status of a payment and the date the status was changed. The new payment importer will allow you to import payments with all of the details that you might record manually within VETrack using the payment wizard. So the use case scenario here is where you've got a finance system, whether it be MyOb, Xero, Quicken, Greentree, whichever. This is agnostic to whatever finance system that you use. You might get an export from your finance system of payments that have been made for that day, week, however, and then you can import those payments into VETrack. And the reason to do that is often because it's easier for an RTO admin to look at VETrack to see if a person's paid than to delve into the finance system to find whether that record of the student paying an invoice, because there's all sorts of other things that might be in there too. So this is a really good way of being able to import those records so you can see who's paid and who hasn't. VETrack records payments from the importer just like native direct payments via the wizard. So there is no difference. All the fields that are available through entering them directly are available through the importer. So you can record payments just like you do through the wizard. So there is no difference when you look at two payments, one that's been imported and one that's been directly entered between the two. They look the same because they are the same. And again, the payment importer uses custom layout files so you can import from different sources. You might have a layout file for the finance system and one for the cash drawer and one from the bank, whatever you might have, but you can have different layout files. So it uses the same base as what the unit results updater does. And I actually haven't shown a screenshot of this because it does look pretty much exactly like the unit results updater. All of our new importers are based upon the same base forms so that you have a consistent method for using the importers and it will be familiar to you on how they operate. So now we're developing these importers, so there's no difference changes really between them. Consistent method of doing things always makes for a better customer experience. One of the other things that we've done to help with your efficiency is create a new toolbar for VETrack. Now, what we did is we got lots of feedback from lots of customers, went out and talked to them. We had group discussions and panels. We looked at our analytics about what are the most commonly used functions and managers within VETrack. And from all that information, we made a determination about what the new toolbar should look like. So the new toolbar for the first time adds in functions that are most commonly used in VETrack. So for example, and here's the enlarged one. So for example, the add client button is new for the toolbar. Add employer, add occurrence, generate state event miss files, generate national event miss files. All brand new into the toolbar so that you've got a one-click button to be able to launch those wizards that are the most commonly used functions within VETrack. We will be adding in the 19.1 version in January for VETrack, two new icons here based upon customer feedback. One is the QA manager for those people who use quality assurance for the trainer portal. That will be added in, as well as process web enrollments for those people who have VETenroll and commonly use that. So we found that those customers who have those functions commonly and consistently use those functions a lot, but customers who don't use those functions don't use those. So it skewed our analytics a little bit. So based upon the feedback, we'll be adding those in. If you don't use QA and if you don't use process web enrollments, you won't see them because they're not configured. So new toolbar for VETrack. It's our feedback is been that it's really good and people are finding it very useful. And in fact, myself, who never used to use the old toolbar, now use the new toolbar all the time. So a great new thing. This is all part of a new of a design refresh for VETrack. This is the first step in making VETrack a little bit more modern, a little bit more user-friendly, and making the user experience for VETrack better. So where you'll see as we talk today, we're going to be doing lots more things to also as part of this design refresh to improve the customer experience for VETrack. The next item I want to talk about is training packages, and this is a real efficiency gain. So customers may have noted previously that when a new or updated training package became available on TGA, there was a lag between when that was available on TGA and when that was available in VETrack. And that caused some frustrations for customers because they then had to ask us to update the training packages because it was a manual process that we had to do so. So the new import training packages from TGA Wizard does this automatically for you. So it talks to the TGA web services and makes available the training packages the very next day. So in this example here, I took this screenshot on the 16th of November. You can see the property services training package was updated at 10:51 p.m. the previous day, and then it's available the next day within VETtrack to import or update with all the new units, if there are any new units, any changes that are in the training package. So now there is no lag between a training package being available on TGA and when it's being made available within VETtrack. So it's much more efficient for you. You can also here, and I haven't shown it, is import qualifications and import nationally accredited courses from TGA without the need of actually creating manually those qualifications and courses. There's a right mouse click menu on qualifications, and there's a right mouse click on the courses node to import those from TGA. What it will do there, it will create a record for the qualification or nationally accredited course for you with the right code and the right name, the right status, recognition status, field of education, all those reportable fields. And all you've got to do then is drag and drop the units that you deliver as part of those courses. So you'll know that the name's right and the code's right, and you're set to go. So that happened. That's available now. It's in the 18.3 version of VETtrack, and is a nice, easy way for you to create your qualifications and nationally accredited courses without having to do it manually. We're making further improvements with the way that we use the information on TGA around training packages that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Sometimes the next item here, so sometimes some of the biggest efficiency gains aren't the headline acts for a release. So in every release, there are around 70 or 80 different items that get added to that release. Normally we highlight those major items at the top, and the big projects that we've been working on to make them show that they're some of the larger pieces. And sometimes buried down in the release notes, you'll find the occasional hidden gem, and this is one of those. So against client enrolments, VET student loan units of study, VET student loan courses of study, invoices, awards, a couple of other items, you'll find a new menu item called Run Reports. Now, the Run Reports menu item opens this wizard. And in this example, what I've been able to do is run two reports. I'm running the enrollment report and I'm running the training plan report. And I'm going to perform some actions as part of running that report. So I'm going to email the report out, and I could choose a default email merge template if I wanted to. I can save it to a folder. So in this case, I'm saving it to my desktop, which is good. Or I can save it to the document database of a certain file type. So from an efficiency point of view, this is a real efficiency gain because it allows you to perform all these actions that you previously had to run independently. So for example, saving a report to a document database, you had to run the report, save the report locally, go back to the entity, go back to a file track, and then upload the document. Now, that's about 5 steps. This is allowing you to do this in one and for multiple reports. And if you're using data insights, you can do this for multiple people, multiple reports. So there are lots of efficiency gains here from the use of this wizard. So for those listening on the webinar, if you take one little hidden gem from today, the Run Reports menu is worth exploring. It can really increase the efficiency of you running reports and outputting the report to various different options. One of the things that we talked about at the last VETengage series was AVS Web Services, which was about to be released in VETtrack. The AVS Web Services have now been in VETtrack for the last 6 months, and at this time we are the only student management system that has gone live with AVS Web Services. in a nutshell, what this allows you to do is to generate your NAT files and upload them to AVS without going outside of VETengage. So it uses web services to zip the files up and uploads them to AVS. AVS then performs all the validation without you needing to be logged into AVS, and then you can keep working away in VETengage, and then you'll get a notification that the validation's been complete, and click here to download the results. And when you download the results, it opens a VETengage wizard to show you all the results, and you can fix the errors and warnings that AVS have generated in VETengage. So one of the things here is that AVS obviously has lots and lots of rules about in their validation, many more than VETengage does, and it allows you to be able to run that without having to save the files, log into AVS, upload your files in AVS, and run the validation, and then kind of transcribe the errors between them. So now you can do all that within VETengage and validate your NAT files. You can do this for a national generation or a state generation. Both are available. The only thing that you can't do at the moment, there are two things. One is that you can't actually submit your NAT files. You have to still log into AVS to do the submission, because there are a couple of checkboxes you need to tick. And the other is if you're needing for your state-based generation to get that validation file to include, you still need to currently log into AVS to get that. We're working with the NCVR on a way of being able to get the validation file back from AVS without you needing to do so. So this has been in VETengage for a little while now. It's available. It's a real efficiency gain in you uploading and validating NAT files without the need to leave VETengage. Another thing that we've added in 18.3, which, yes, it's an efficiency gain, but probably has a little bit more to do with auditing compliance, is file notes. So if you've added notes before in VETengage, say against a client, you'll notice it's one long text field. And you add a note, and then you add a bit more to the bottom of it, and you just keep appending and appending and appending the notes. And after a while, you start typing in dates, because there is no date field. So, and then you might start typing in the name of the person who's also created the note, because you can't tell who might have written the note. So you end up with a big long blob of text that you can't easily search through. You can't really add into reports. It's not as useful. So file notes is brand new. It allows you to have a date and time stamped permission-based note that you can then add for various different entities within VETengage. So in this example here, I've created a file note for the 13th. Now, the file note may have been created, on the 14th or another day. They are date and time stamped and user stamped of who created it. Where I've said we had a phone call and that little Johnny, for example, phoned to say that he couldn't attend class today. I've then added a new file note for the next day for a meeting, to have a meeting with Johnny, because this may not be the first time that he's rung up and said he couldn't attend class. So with these notes, there are individual notes for each of the interactions that you're having with that student, which means that they're searchable. You can put different sorts of file notes on reports, filter them, do lots of extra things. The other thing that this does is, for the first time, because they're permission-based, you can now use notes, these file notes, in the trainer portal and or student portal to view, edit, add notes for students for the various entities. And they'll be file notes in VETengage. So I know it's been something that's been asked for a long time, about adding notes capability within the portals. And the new file notes here feature allows you to do that. So brand new, it's in 18.3. It's an efficiency gain, I suppose, for when you're at audit time. You can search for different types of notes. but also the efficiency gain is with the portals and with trainers being able to view, edit, add notes for students. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the trainer portal attendance. Now, what we've done here is pretty much reimagined the way that the trainer portal attendance works. We consistently got feedback that the older method of recording attendance for students in the trainer portal was maybe a little bit complicated for trainers to use. That they found it difficult to use. They wanted something simple. They wanted something that was intuitive and easy for them to use, as well as being more configurable in the way that your organisation records attendance. So what we've done is the new trainer portal attendance method allows you to configure this in a very different looking interface. So it's very clean. It's a lot of white space. It's more intuitive about what the trainer needs to do here, and is available now in the updated portals. We haven't turned this on automatically, so if you're using the trainer portal, you'll probably find if you look in the global preferences, it will be in what's called legacy mode, which is the old mode. If you turn off legacy mode and do some configuration, you'll get the new look for recording attendance. Now, in this example here, I've configured this trainer portal so that all the trainer's got to do is basically click present, the square for each of the students, and it marks them off as present. When they want to endorse it, they click endorsed, and that's it. It's done. So this example, I'm not collecting signatures, and depending upon your processes, you may or may not need to collect signatures. So if you don't need to collect signatures, you can configure your trainer portal so that you have basically a one-click action to mark attendance, which is better than having drop downs and choosing the different attended or not attended type modes. This can be configured also on a program by program basis. So you can have one setting for one type of program and another setting for a different type of program. In the next example, for a different type of program, I've decided that I do need to collect signatures. So at this point, the student taps to sign, they sign a motor window and basically go OK, and then it records and shows you the student signature on screen. And that is the trigger to mark the attendance as attended for that student. And again, the trainer clicks, you collect the trainer signature. So you might have some programs where you're collecting signatures, some you're not. You can configure this the way that you like. You can also configure this to have different start times, and there's an hour clock that you can adjust to have the adjustable times. You can say whether you want to do notes or not. Lots of configuration changes that you can make so that you record attendance your way. We're working on further ways that you can record attendance in the trainer portal to match your processes, and I'll be talking about one of those coming up very shortly. The next piece that I want to talk about is portal external authentication. Now, the way that this works is if your students and or trainers are logging into your computer network using a Windows Active Directory username and password, is that in one click, by clicking one of those two buttons underneath the student kind of head icon there, that it can log those students or trainers into their portal without the need for them to enter their username, their VETengage username or password. So you're using the credentials that the student has for their Windows login and authenticating against the same authentication service that they're using to log into their computer. Now, this works with Active Directory. It works with Microsoft OpenID and with Google as well. So if you're using Google credentials, and there will be more authentication services on the way. So alternatively, the students and or trainers can use their VETtrack username and password. I mean, I suppose the idea here is that if the students or trainer is already logged into Windows, they don't need to know or remember their VETtrack username or password, and makes it more efficient, especially for you, if you're doing the RTO admin, of having to reset trainers and students' usernames and passwords. So there's an efficiency gain in using that as well. So that's available now. It's if you use the trainer and student portal predominantly within your own network, this may be a really a suitable option for you to use. Now we're going to have a look at VETengage and what we promised at the last series of VETengages. So last July we went around the country and talked to our customers, and we held a webinar just like this one, where we went through a whole range of things that we said that we were going to do. So this is where I get held to account, and where I've got to make sure I've come through with the goods of what I promised, basically. So let's have a look at how we went. So at the last VETengage, we said we're going to be making some usability improvements to VETtrack. And as you see with the new toolbar, we've started that. And some of the things I'm going to show you in a minute build upon those usability improvements so that your experience with VETtrack is better. So I think we can give ourselves a tick for that, because we've done okay so far. So, but there's more to come. So we've started the process. It is a long-term project of enhancing the usability for VETtrack, but we have started. The NCVR web services. So as you saw in the previous slides, we have done that. It's implemented and live and available. So tick, pretty good. 2 out of 2 so far. We said we were going to build a new importer base, and we were going to build new importers on that base that had that consistent look and feel, that were more flexible, that were more robust. We're doing that. So as you've seen, we've got 2 new importers, and in a minute, I'll show you the next one that's on its way. So awesome, 3 out of 3. That's great. So I'm really sparkling at the moment. Let's look at the next one. USI CAA solution. So this one is interesting. So we've had the CAA solution in VETtrack for over a year. The CAA solution was in trial with the USI office for quite a while. It was meant to go live in the middle of the year, but that got delayed. Look, it's one of those things of when you're working with government agencies, sometimes they don't quite work to that agenda that may have been outlined at the start. So we've implemented it in VETtrack. We've participated in the trial. We're ready to go. We're waiting on them. So I've kind of given us a half mark for that because it's not quite there yet. The next one was about API redevelopment. Now, what we're doing instead at the moment is looking at what's really required here. And this might be a new API. Maybe it's enhancements of the existing API. We're still tossing to and fro what we're going to do here. Partly because we know that if we do a new API, that's going to have an impact on any third-party integration that talks to VETtrack. That those customers who use especially a bespoke third-party integration would need to get that redeveloped, and they might incur a cost for that. And that's not, something that we take lightly. So certainly it's something that we're thinking about. We're still looking at. We haven't quite decided which way we're going yet. So I'll give a question mark for that one as well. So not too bad, 3 out of 5, and the others, there were no red crosses of things that we haven't done. So we did pretty well, we think. We also, at the last VETengage, asked the participants about what are the focus areas that VETtrack should focus on for development. And we got lots of responses from lots of people, both at the live webinars and the live events and the webinar. And the things that came out the most were people wanted us to focus on enrollment and course management and RTO management, reporting and compliance. So really what they're after is saying, we want you to help us be more efficient with our enrollment and course management, but we also want you to maintain that compliance and RTO management aspect for us as well. So we think we've done that. With all the importers that we've done, and things that are coming, we have focused on both efficiency whilst maintaining the compliance and rigor. So we're following through with the feedback that we received about what should our focus areas been on. So we're doing okay. This is the great bit where I get to talk about what's next. So this is where you get a bit of a sneak preview about what's in the wings for VETtrack, which is a nice thing. So strap in, we're about to have a look. So the first thing is we're going to have a brand new client importer. This is going to replace the existing client importer. If you look at that, you'd say, hey, that looks just like the unit results updater that we saw earlier. And that's because it uses the same base frames that we're using for all our other importers. So you get that consistent use, the way that they work is consistent across all our importers. So here, just like the unit results updater one, I've dragged and dropped fields from the left to the right. I've said what operation that I want to use, whether it's update or match or ignore. And then the second stage is importing the spreadsheet using layout files, so different layouts for different sources of your clients. So we will be migrating in. So this is for 19.1 for VETtrack. We're pretty sure we're going to get this in for 19.1. It's going to be tight, but we're pretty sure we're going to get there. What we will be doing is we will be migrating your existing layout files as part of that process into the new format, so that you won't need to recreate any layout files that you've previously made for the previous client importer. This is, again, a much more flexible, robust, has lots more validation. All of the things that I talked about in the original importers allows you to do more in bulk. So things like, just as an example, custom fields. So previously, in the current client importer, you cannot import custom fields. It's not possible. The new importer, yes, you can. It makes it really easy. So that's just one way that the new importers are much more flexible in the way that they're going to work. The TGA scope import. So I talked a little earlier about how we're using TGA web services now to import and update your training packages. The TGA scope import takes this one step further in that in VETtrack, your RTO ID is set against your organisation, and we're going to read the scope from TGA and then import any training packages and any qualifications and any nationally accredited courses that are on your scope. So for a new customer, this is awesome because it allows them in one click to set up a whole heap of stuff in VETtrack that previously would have taken half an hour, 2 hours, depending on how many qualifications you had on scope. So for a new customer, this will get them up and running much more quickly. For an existing customer, if you have changes to your scope, you have something added, a new qualification, and it's added on TGA on one day, it's then available to add through this method the next day, just like the other TGA web services. So it makes it much easier for you to create the qualifications and import the training packages when your scope changes. So just an efficiency measure that just makes it easy for you to do this type of action. We're doing lots more with TGA web services, so there'll be some more things to come. This, again, 19.1 for VETtrack, the TGA scope import will be in there. The design refresh. So the second part, and I alluded to this before, that we're doing more work around making VETrack more modern, usable, and the customer experience, the user experience better. So the second step of doing this is to be able to apply skins and themes to VETrack, so you can have your own color palette, so that VETrack can look the way that you want it to look to make your customer and user experience better. So in this example, this is VETrack 18.3. This is how it looks now. I quite like it, but it's just the standard way of VETrack works. Here is VETrack with a light-themed skin applied. Happens to be called Gloom Gloom. They all got very weird names. But here, VETrack does look a little bit more modern. It looks cleaner. The colouring is quite nice. It's a bit different. It looks better. So improves the user experience by having a slightly more modern look to it. In this example, I've applied a different palette called Mercury Ice. Now, if you've ever worked with software developers, they often like to have dark screens with white writing. For whatever reason, I think they're allergic to the glare from the monitors. So in this case, if this is the way that you like to work, and you want your application to look like this, then you could apply this theme skin to it. So VETrack looks quite different when it's with a black background and white writing. And here's one with blue. So this one's called Cram, which has another different look about it, blue with white. If we take this a little step further and look at some of the wizards, so this is, for example, the client wizard as it looks now. This is the client wizard with the Gloom Gloom theme applied. Looks nicer. I think it looks better. Let's have a look at how it looks with Mercury Ice, which was the dark theme skin applied. And here, again, with the Cram blue themed skin applied. Now, this might seem like a small trivial thing to be able to apply your different colours to VETrack. We're having to retrofit this a bit. It is actually quite a substantial piece of work, and we've got to make sure all the wizards and all the managers render correctly when you apply different theme skins. So this is coming. It's not in 19.1. It will be sometime in 2019 that this will be available, and it's quite exciting. VETrack has a different look. It's very different. So it's good. So that's something to come. All part of the enhancing the user experience for VETrack. There are some things coming up from the portals that I'm just going to talk about that are coming in the following year. The first, and it's not very far away, is adding QR codes for attendance recording. So the example here is that you may produce an ID card for students, and that ID card comes out of VETrack as a custom report, and you have a card printer that you print those custom report ID cards out of VETrack, and they might have the student's name, maybe a photo, and an ID, and on the back maybe they've got the QR code for their client ID. What can then happen is as the students come into class and the trainer portal is open, they basically scan the QR code and that marks them off as being attended. So no tap to sign, no just tap to say you're here, using basically a barcode reader type application to be able to read the QR code to mark them off as attended. So this is in testing at the moment. It should be released pretty soon. This is just another way that we're trying to make the recording of attendance easier for customers in VETrack. And we're doing more about this, so we're looking at other ways that we can make attendance recording easier. And because we know that is an important aspect of what people do. And it is something that we need to try and make a relatively simple operation for people to do. Waitlisting in the student portal. So we're going to make some enhancements for this so that an existing student who has an existing login in the student portal can register for other courses in a nice, easy way so that they can then flow on to do other courses. So we're going to make some enhancements in this. We're still working on the nuts and bolts of it, but it is a project in the wings. And lastly is the VETenroll two-stage enrolment process. Now, this is designed for people who obviously are using VETenroll, but who are offering short courses specifically. So the process is the student goes to VETenroll and enters some minimal information. It might be their name, their email address, and maybe a mobile phone number. That's all they enter at this point. They confirm that's the course that they're wanting to enroll into, and you might be collecting payment. So, which is obviously quite important. You collect the payment for the course, you process the enrolment as normal as a web enrolment, and they're enrolled into the occurrence. VETenroll sends the student an email with an individual link for them to then log back into VETenroll to complete the rest of the information. So they can fill out their USI, their VETMIS information, maybe address information, whatever else it is that you want them to gather afterwards, after they've confirmed their enrolment, so that then the burden of that data entry is with the student, but it's after they've confirmed that they're going to and paid for and doing the course. So if you've got a long enrolment process for a short course, and you're finding that students are not getting all the way through and are dropping out before they finish the enrolment process, then this can be a really good solution for you. It means that you're capturing that student information nice and early, and you're confirming the enrolment at that point. So this is coming. It's not far away. So if you're interested in the VETenroll two-stage enrolment process, it's a good thing, and it is on the way to being delivered. Lastly here, we're looking at some other projects that we're undertaking. So not maybe so related to the efficiency, but we're doing lots of other work that I just want to let you know about. So one is we're looking at how we can better communicate with our end user who's using VETtrack through the product. Now, this could be something like next week we're having a Christmas, dinner for staff or Christmas lunch for staff, and support might be reduced for, a couple of hours because staff are at their Christmas lunch. Now, so instead of sending an email out to people who may not actually be the users of VETtrack and hoping that they pass that information on, having a mechanism within VETtrack to alert the end user to say, hey, support will be reduced on Thursday between 12 and 2. Please keep this in mind when contacting us. So that type of proactive telling the end user communication can be a really useful way of being able to communicate with you and tell you about things that we need to tell you about. It's also we're thinking of mechanisms for you to give us feedback. So feedback about the use of VETtrack or different features. Also maybe something around where an error comes up on your screen and you've got something, strange going on, having a really simple way for you to click a button to send information about what's happened to us, potentially about what the error is, what you were doing at that time, so that we can then track back and go, okay, in this certain circumstances, it's producing an error, without you having to take a screenshot, write an email, and go backwards and forwards about what the problem is. Having some automated way that you could then communicate those types of errors to us would be really good. So we're looking at lots and lots of options here around in-product communication and how that is going to be, how that could potentially be used. We're also looking at doing a dashboard redevelopment. So when you open VETrack, it tells you you're using the 2018 version of VETrack, and that the year is 2018. So that's kind of useful, but it would be better if more useful information was available on the dashboard, so that when you open VETrack, it could tell you what you might need to do today, how your enrolment processes are going, how your class attendance might be looking, have movable, configurable widgets and charts, and lots of things that give you a much better impression about what's going on with your VETrack. So this is a great thing about redeveloping an existing thing in the dashboard to make it much more usable and make it a much more better customer experience in using VETrack and provide more information back to you. The next one is about self-service certificate statement design and build. So the bulk of the reports that we do in VETrack are statement and certificate award reports. They all share a common logic. So there's not a great deal of difference between how two different organisations' statements and certificates about how they run and the way that they operate. What is different is how they look. So different fonts, different backgrounds, different images, different placement of the same information. So we're looking at how in VETrack we could build a user define customizable method so that you can create your statements and certificates to how you want them to look, and they've all got a standard way of working. So that's one of the projects that we're looking at. Again, these are longer term projects that are a little way off, but certainly things that we're thinking about. Another thing that we're thinking about is merge template redevelopment. So currently merge templates use a fairly basic text replacement process. And not all the fields, in fact it's fairly limited, what fields are available for merge templates. So what we're looking at doing is building a new merge template structure that uses all similar sort of look and feel to the importers and data insights and triggers and actions that allow you to basically create merge templates using nearly any field in VETrack. So making it much more flexible, you'll be much more efficient because you'll have more information you'll be able to merge with, to send emails, SMSs, put on invoices, those types of things for students. So lots more work to be done there as well. And as I noted earlier, we're looking at making some waitlisting improvements, not just for the student portal, but for VETrack as well, so that it's easier to manage people who are on waitlists in VETrack. Waitlists are something that we are enhancing. It hasn't had a lot of development work in recent times, so we're looking at making some significant improvements in the way that we waitlist students. And second, lastly, we have the data streamlining project. So this is a longer term project that the government, federal government is undertaking that basically allows you to send data to the government without the need of producing files and doing it in real time. So as you're creating an enrolment, that information might be being sent to the government, and then they're then using that instead of having to basically wait till the end of the month or the end of the quarter or the end of the year and wait for your NAT files to do so. So very much a long-term project. Obviously, there's got to be agreements between states and territories and the Commonwealth, and a model's got to be decided upon. But it is at the very early stage of this project. So we're not really expecting anything to come out of this for a few years, but it's just something that we're involved with. We're quite proud to be involved with doing so, and is on the way. And lastly, there's the API review. So as I noted before, we're not quite decided upon how we're doing this. Yep. And whether we actually have a new API or whether we have a redevelop our existing API. Okay. Just a second. All right, we're nearly there. Sorry. So lastly, what I just want to do is say thanks to everyone here. And look, we do value people's suggestions. So if you've got product suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. So the best way of doing this is to use the new VETrack community to make those product suggestions. So there are, if you log into the Customer Center, there are 3 areas to do so. One is the Support Center, which is where you'll find the updates for VETrack and where you make report requests and those sort of things. Secondly, there is the Help Center, where you'll find help articles, support articles that will tell you how to do things. And lastly is the VETrack community. And the VETrack community is where you can make product suggestions, you can ask questions, you can get other people and provide responses to other people's questions, and participate in a forum, basically, with lots of people. But certainly we've had about 20 product suggestions already come in through the VETrack community, which we launched at the last VETengage. So we'd love to hear from you. So if you've got some suggestions, please go to the community to add them. Thanks, everybody. So that's it from me. What we're going to do now is have a product spotlight. And as part of this product spotlight, we're going to be hearing from Scott. And Scott is going to talk about My Profiling, which is one of the VETengage companies, one of our sister companies, about how you can increase your efficiency by using My Profiling. So I'll hand over to Scott and he'll take you through My Profiling. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, everyone. I won't take too much of your time this afternoon, but it's great to be here and it's great to introduce one of the newest additions to the VETengage family, My Profiling. Now, My Profiling has been around for about 8 years, but many of you may not have heard of it before. We've predominantly been working in the TAFE sector, but we're now bringing out these technologies for private RTOs to make your lives a little bit easier. Now, My Profiling is a system that is designed to provide modern technology solutions to long-term compliance issues that we've all come across in the VET sector, so to speak. So what I'm going to introduce is all the different components and give you a little bit of a walkthrough on what the platform does. This is what My Profiling actually covers. It actually has 5 separate sections, and we're going to be introducing a 6th one in the new year. But to give a quick run through, profiling is a training log, a digital training log, where your students and apprentices can actually track their activities whilst on the job or in simulated working environments. We've brought in an RPL wizard to try and make it as easy as possible for providers in the sector. We've got a digital training plan, which is something that a lot of people have been given quite positive feedback for. We've got assessments, which are typical to what an LMS does. And we've brought out an organizer to complement the entire package. Now, what you can see on the right-hand side is a copy of an app. So what we've done with this technology, we've made it app-based for both your students and your supervisors, which is a great means of communication and engagement. But we've also got a web version that, and just to add to that too, we have an integration that already exists for VETrack. So let's start with the profiling component. So what you can see here is a sparkly screen that appears on a student's mobile. This is going through the app on the left. The exact same view is on the right, which is what it appears on the web version. What you are looking at here is a student recording activities that they are performing whilst on the job. You could break this down to daily shifts, it could be service sessions, it could be a wide range of different ways that you capture the information, so to speak. But the important thing is that they log every activity that they're doing during that time. All of this is mapped directly to the units of competency in the back systems for validity. So a student selects what they're doing. They upload videos. They can upload photos as well. They record the levels of supervision they've been under during those tasks. They can even outline what's simulated or what's actually on the job. When they've actually submitted these activities, what happens is this all goes to a central position, which is the profile. So every activity that a student does against a unit of competency recorded whilst on the job or in your simulated environment all collates against each unit of competency and actually breaks down to the point where you're looking at your performance criteria. We map absolutely everything in the back end, and we've got about 220 qualifications already mapped and ready. Once the student has actually entered all of their data, what happens is they can send a request to their employers to validate that those tasks that they claim that they actually did is accurate. This is all collated within the platform. The same works with simulated tasks. If they're recording a simulation, that goes through to their trainer, and the trainer has to approve it there. Now, once the student has actually progressed through the unit, you're going to be able to see what the gaps are. You're going to be able to see the activities that are still outstanding that they haven't performed yet. But once your assessor is actually confident that they can demonstrate the required skills, they can send a notification to the employer to confirm whether or not workplace standards have actually been achieved, which is basically a third-party validation. And this is important. So this tracks all of the skills-based on-the-job activities that a student's doing. On top of this, we've got assessment. So on the left-hand side, you just see a basic example, but the cool thing is about the assessment component is it's available in the app too. So if the student is actually they're on their lunch, for example, they've just entered a couple of logs, they can go into the assessment section and just answer a couple of questions from their mobile. And as you can see on the right-hand side, the system has a very extensive methodology for mapping the validity of all of your tools in the back end, which is quite important from a compliance perspective. This is one of my favorite parts of the platform, recognition of prior learning. RPL is a real interesting subject sometimes. And what we've found is that everyone invests a significant amount of money, not only in the development of recognition of prior learning kits, but also in the human hours that go into the collating of information and the validation of the data that comes through. So what we tried to do is create a student-centric approach that puts the burden of proof onto them. So what you can see on the left-hand side is a wizard, 6 stages. So if you're using a VETengage API, through the integration, the student will be coming through into the RPL component. They can update their details there if you need them to. But where this starts off next is they actually select what tasks they've performed with previous employers. So just like what a lot of RTOs do, they get references of the student as part of their RPL process, and typically the assessor has to pick up the phone and give them a call. In this scenario, the student actually outlines the frequency in which they perform the critical jobs that are associated with all the performance criteria, links it to employers, and the system will send out an email asking those employers to validate whether or not that is accurate. From there, the next stage is you can include your quizzes, your knowledge tests, which are quite important for a unit of competency, and then they can actually upload additional evidence then and there as well. This is all student-driven at this point. Your assessors have not lifted a finger, so to speak, to collate all of this evidence. What you see on the right hand of the screen is the overview of what the trainer sees. They'll see how much they've completed associated with their work experience, if their self-evaluation is completed in full and how they've gone with that. They can actually organise practical demonstrations if it's required, and even flag if gap training is required for the individual. Obviously, through an integration, if an RPL is actually being given, that could push back directly to your VETengage instance. The next section is the training plan component. Now, I know VETengage has the capability of generating the training plans, but we've added an additional level to it, so to speak. So a perfect example is with Skills Canberra. We're about to be releasing full use of this for all apprentices in that state. But what we're looking at here is the normal training plan view. Most of this will come across with your integration if you've got that in place, but it captures all the basic information about the training details, the employer details, students, any support, workplace requirements, everything that you would expect from a training plan there. Now, this can be completed on the spot. It has the capability for capturing digital signatures as well. And then, of course, if you need to actually do this whilst you're not with the student or with the nominated employer, you can email this off, capture digital signatures that way, and you'll be able to record dates and archive versions as well. So this will maintain your training plan. We've got most state training authorities versions in there at this present moment. And the cool thing is, when using this through an integration, your training plan review will be automatically conducted because the system will automatically update the training plan with unit progression. So a student becomes competent, the training plan will be updated. It works whether it's been recorded in a student management system, whether it's been recorded in a profiling component, or whether it's a result of RPL through the system as well. And that is the basic offering of My Profiling. As I said, we're quite excited to bring this out to VETtrack and work with VETtrack with this particular product. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your VETtrack representative. Thanks, guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who recognize the voice, I'm Nick Bishop. I'm the VETtrack Partner and Client Experience Manager, and I'm here to let you know about the VETtrack Partner Program. Just a little bit about myself. For those who do recognize the voice, I started many years ago in the support team, answering the telephones, and then I've moved up through the ranks through support into sales, and now I'm in the Partner and Client Experience Manager role. One day they'll find a job I'm decent enough at, I can stay put. The VETtrack Partner Program. So my current goal in the role is to help foster better communication and connections with our partners and help connect our customers to our partners in order to provide them the best solution we can for success. While VETtrack itself is quite feature-rich, it can cover requirements for things like invoicing, uploading and providing assessments and reading materials through our portal tools and document storage. VETtrack focuses on what we do well, reporting, compliance, and student management, and we're going to be relying on our partners to excel in the areas of expertise that they have to provide the best efficiency for your business. And this is where the partner program comes along to help you connect with the providers who can help meet the needs that you have and make your business more efficient. Our partners can help provide solutions for your specific needs in a more streamlined way to provide payment plan options for your students, for example, or a more in-depth way to deliver online learning through one of our LMS partners. We're here to provide those connections and help find the best solution. Part of this is taking your comments and feedback on these integrations that we've developed and the partnerships and bringing them back to the VETtrack development team and the partners to help expand these integrations. We want to make sure you're getting the most out of the system, and ongoing development and the suggestions help us drive our products and our integrations. If there's a business need the integration doesn't cater for, we'd like to work with you and our partners to see if these can be achieved. In the same way, if there's a business need that VETtrack product cannot cater for, or if there's another system you're using that you've developed an in-house integration using our API, we'd love to know. Expanding our partnerships allow us to provide more options to all of our customers. We have a developer register for anyone who might be working with the VETtrack API to create an integration. If you have someone that has helped develop an integration with VETtrack, please encourage them to register with us, and we can provide updates to them on changes to the system and the API before they're released in one of the VETtrack updates to ensure that any integration that has been created continues to function without any disruption. We have several known integrations out in the wild that we've worked and helped develop ourselves, but there are many, many more that we're unaware of. The developer register can really assist us in keeping everyone up to date and identify common integrations that we may not have in place that could be useful for other businesses. On the screen here, you can see some of our integration partners. As we move forward with the partner program, I'd like to expand this and include many more partners the next time I have to go through a presentation. The partners listed above are those we have co-developed integrations with. The benefit of working with partners who have cross-developed with us is that we can provide some support for these integrations or put you in contact with the right people to achieve a quick resolution to any possible problems. Some of the partners we have listed here in the integration partner ecosystem are, for our LMS partners, we have Cloud Assess, Next Software Solutions, Canvas LMS, Catapult eLearning, and Go1. Now, you may notice there's no Moodle listed on this. We are developing an in-house Moodle integration. We've already released part 1 of that integration, which is passing the student details from VETtrack over to Moodle. And the second part of the integration is retrieving the results from Moodle and bringing them back into VETtrack. That second part is currently in testing. There are other Moodle providers out there that we're aware of that have developed their own integrations, and there are other LMS providers we know that have developed their own integrations. But these are the ones that we've worked with in the past, and we know the integrations work well. You can see some payment plan partners. So if you have an option or a need for want to give the option, for students to pay via payment plan, we do have Easy Debit and Debit Success. These are 2 of the partners that can provide this solution to you. For document management, now VETtrack has a document storage solutions, the document database and VTdocs. Upstream, which is a Fuji Xerox company, has a solution in place using a QR code or barcode. QR code, that's the word I'm looking for? Yes. To allow you to put that as a cover sheet, and a scanner will scan the cover sheet and the document itself, and then upload that and attach it to the student in your VETtrack and have a link to where the document is actually stored to try and help businesses go a bit more paperless. Everybody's trying to get rid of paper, and nobody wants to dig through boxes and boxes trying to find information. And finally, we have some of our ReadyTech family partners. ReadyTech is the parent company of VETtrack. You've heard from my profiling just before me and Scotty. And another one that we partner with within the ReadyTech group is Escher House. There's a Assess to Educate integration, which uses behavioral science to assess your students and class them into their commitment to the course to allow you to better focus your support services for your students. And come audit time with ASQA, which everybody looks forward to as much as Christmas, this helps show your duty of care towards the customers and your students to say that, look, we assess them and we've been trying to support them and focus the support services on those who need it. If you'd like more information about any of our partners or what they do, please feel free to get in touch, and I'm happy to provide more information. And for the A2E assessments last VETengage, previously on VETengage, we had an option there that if you'd like to try out the Assess to Educate option, just send through an email to support@vettrack.com.au and ask to have this turned on, and we can provide some free credits to the A2E solution for you to have a bit of a play with and see if it would work for you. One of the things we'll be doing during the VETengage live presentations, we had some of our partners do a presentation on what they do. In the new year, we'll be looking at doing different webinars with these partners and doing these separately and sending out information on what those different partners do. So please stay tuned to that. Also, during the live VETengage, we did a group discussion, and we had some panel questions with some willing volunteers who got to come up and talk about, again, with the focus on efficiency. We were talking about different ways that they've had efficiency in their RTOs. We went through 4 questions during those panel discussions, and we're going to go through them here now. I'll give you an overview on some of the answers that we had back from the customers that took part, and we'll be putting these questions up in our communities forum for you to jump in and add your own comments and different ways you've improved efficiency in your RTOs. So to begin, here is question number 1. What's the number 1 way you've made efficiency improvements in your RTO? Radio voice there. So in the, I'm just trying to bring up my notes here. In the session, some of the respondents that we've had, we had the comments of taking time for compliance makes them more efficient, making sure that what they're doing remains compliant drives that efficiency because they don't have to go back and double check things after the fact. Another comment that came through from this question was for VETenroll to speed up enrollments and save time, and moving to VETtrack to manage the students, and moving away from a the comment was less than desirable SMS. So allowing VETtrack to manage their students and have that knowledge that they're using a really compliant system that's been in the market for 20 years, just to reinforce that, I suppose, which was great feedback. Question number 2. Can you share an example of when VETtrack has improved efficiencies in your organization? Again, the feedback from some of the sessions, a lot of it was around triggers and actions, was brought up several times to allow you to set up a trigger, and then when that trigger is triggered, the next step of the workflow comes up, and this allows you to go through and really just follow a workflow without having to go through a manual and remember everything. VETtrack will, as you complete the last result in a unit, ask you if you want to now create the award. After you create the award, it'll ask you if you want to send an email to the student and attach that award as an email, and mark the enrollment itself as complete. Another big thing that came up from the panel discussions was data insights. And I'll let Paul tell you a bit more about data insights, because he's sitting here patiently with me. It's now the Paul.
Yes, so data insights is a way of running custom queries on your VETtrack database, and then taking that output in either putting it into a report so that you can look at that information, or you can use some bulk update tools to update some of that information based upon the criteria you've specified in those data insights queries. If you remember, I talked about the importers, how they look very similar to data insights. So it uses the same structures to create your data insights queries. So a really useful way of being able to run custom queries on your database without needing potentially custom reports to do so. Thanks, Nick.
You're very welcome. The next question: is there a process you wish you had adopted sooner? So this is your eureka moment when you found something in VETtrack, or just a process within your organization that you've put into place and God, I wish I'd done that a year ago. We had a couple of different, and this one was very varied. Everything from streamlining the processes and knowing from past work experience things that work and don't work, and putting processes in place really to drive that efficiency, and coming up with processes that you wish you had put in place a year ago. VETenroll was another big thing that came out to help speed up that enrollment process and not have to do data entry and trying to decipher some students' handwriting. Another one that came up from there was, going back through my notes, I've got them all here. Again, triggers and actions, and knowing about triggers and actions and bulk resulting in some cases as well, just to speed things up and make your time a bit more efficient at work. The final question: what's the most critical change you will make in your RTO to face the future effectively? Again, a wide range of answers here. Transitioning to online learning seemed to be the big one that came up, and having an online learning solution there for anything that's not necessarily a practical type of assessment requirement, where they can do the online learning, they can do the online quizzes and fill out that material. They can still have the trainers available to them to answer questions, and it can take a replacement from the classroom-based training, or work in conjunction with the classroom-based training to allow them to have both face-to-face and an online component to make it easier for them to manage. And a lot of the students, they're finding, really like doing things online and on their phones and tablets, and that was a big driver for a change that'll be coming in the future. So that really is the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for taking part. I hope that you've been able to take something away from the webinar and maybe bring it back into your RTO to try out. As always, if you have any trouble, if you need support with the VETtrack product, please feel free to contact us on 1-800-VETRAC or 036330166. Our support team is available through email, support@vetrac.com.au. There is always the help center available. As you log into the community center and near the help center, you'll find the link for communities. These questions will be posted up in communities. If you'd like to jump in and add some comments on different ways that you've improved efficiency in your RTO and share it with other customers that would be interested in some of the different ways RTOs work through some of the regular things that come along. And yes, thank you all for coming. I hope you've had a good time, and we'll talk to you again.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Okay. Bye.